Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of the Pursuing Horizons podcast, where we embark on life's endless pursuit. Today, we are joined by Susie, and we're going to be going over some things considering metabolic disease, more preventative things, but we're really excited for this conversation. So, thank you for making the time to come on.
I am utterly honored to be on this podcast.
Utterly, like a cow.
Like,
Right out of the gate, we have
Dad
utterly
jokes.
on the record.
yeah,
Uh,
Susie, why don't you tell us a little
cue,
bit about yourself?
cue the badumts. Yeah. Anyways, okay. So we'll give some backstory here. Susie, what got you into fitness? How long have you been working out for? Coaching, everything.
yeah, we'll go way back and we'll go back to when I was homeschooled. So
Sure.
the context of this is growing up homeschooled, I think that I developed a massive love for learning. And when you pair that with a lot of the rebellious tendencies I had, there were a lot of rules. So I had this tendency to want to break those rules. And so one of the things that got me into fitness was I became a vegetarian because I just wanted to be a rule breaker. And then I started running as well. So I was a runner, I was a vegetarian, I was a cardio junkie, and then it kind of just seemed like a logical next step after I graduated high school to kind of pursue fitness just because I enjoyed doing it. And then the pieces fell into place where I started working for Good Life, which we have a lot of camaraderie with. And it was just this gradual unfolding of like doing really, really well in my first couple years as a trainer, to where they made me a assistant manager at the age of 20, which whenever I tell this story, I'm just kind of like, that was a terrible idea. Like, I don't know who was like, yeah, she's 20, she's got this. So from that, I made a lot of leadership mistakes, like every leadership mistake in the book, you name it. And so I kind of went through the assistant manager process to then managing my own gym, which was an immense amount of responsibility for a 21-year-old. And I felt like I needed to kind of be this different person in order for people to respect me. And that's when I started experiencing a lot of my autoimmune issues. So I was in and out of the hospital for probably 1 year where it was really bad. And my joint pain got so bad that I couldn't get out of bed and function in the morning unless I was on some type of pain medication. So that was a really dark time for me. A lot of like suicidal thoughts, a lot of hiding who I really was from people close to me. And there was one sort of epiphany moment that I had having been in the hospital. I came out of the hospital the next morning with just more pain medication that the doctors had prescribed for me. And I was kind of like, okay, I'm 23. Like, is this going to be the rest of my life? Like, am I just going to be in and out of the hospital for the rest of my life? Like, I don't think this is my plan for me. I don't think this is anyone's plan for me. Like, this isn't the direction I want to go. So I kind of got really determined to figure out what was wrong. And that's when I got super into the biohacking world. So I got into like fasting and the carnivore diet and paleo and all of these super extreme dietary methods. And that really served me really well for a period of time. But then I got a little bit too extreme with my methods, which started to cause other problems mentally, physically. Um, and so as all of this is happening, I am going through career changes. I eventually started my own company, and now I am in a place where I am being given the opportunity to help specifically women with metabolic disease, which alludes to the title of this podcast. But I think the reason why I'm helping those people is because that's what I struggled with in the past. And um, my clients generally have very large weight loss goals, anywhere from like 50 to 200 pounds. And usually metabolic disease is a really big part of that. And it's something that I was super nerdy about because it's something I struggled with. So I think I understand the pain that you go through when you have a lot of metabolic issues, but also, in order to lose really, really large amounts of weight, you need to be good at kind of turning your pain into power, which is what I help people with now. So it's been a journey and it's brought me here. So I'm nothing but grateful for it.
Gee, what an intro. What an intro. That was incredible. I was listening like a fan. Like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Um, Without getting too personal, or get as personal as you'd like, you know who you're talking to here. What kind of autoimmune diseases, I hate using that word, but what showed up?
Yeah, I mean, there's kind of two different ways that I can answer that question. And like the autoimmune issues that I had, it's almost impossible to give a name to it because the medical community, we don't know what autoimmune disease is, really. Um, so that's one part of it. Another part of it is like the way it showed up for me, which is joint pain, like I mentioned. I would get these really big uh, rashes and welts all over my legs. And to give more context to that, like I was stressed all the time. I was having energy drinks all the time. I was taking pain medication every day. And the thing about pain medication is it long term, it suppresses your immune system. And so I was engaging in a lot of behaviors that were causing me more stress. And so that wasn't helping.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I think it was a combination of the birth control, the pain medications, the hiding who I really was from the people closest to me. Like, I think it was just a combination of all of these things. So I don't know because I never went to a doctor for help with that specific issue because I didn't really believe in the medical system to be able to help me. Um, so I know what I experienced, but I don't know what, even a functional medicine doctor would have had to say about it because I
Yeah.
just never saw anybody about it because I was like, what are they going to do? Like, just give me more pain medication? Like, yeah.
So I'll follow up to that too. And this is what I think is so like people will say, oh, the world's going to shit, all these things. And like there's so many beautiful things if you just pay attention to the beautiful things. We're not going to be shown this, but one of those beautiful things to me is having this conversation even 15 years ago. There would be, and I'm going to allude to something maybe you're saying here, there would be no focus on was it the stress that caused these things, or like we're talking like I have a very similar background as well, and opiates took me into a very strange place with my body when they were supposed to be helping me too. But now we know so much more about the causes of stress on the body and what it can do. So it sounds like you're saying this was a massive contribution to it, and I think it's just so cool that we can talk about that and we know that now, whereas that would have been considered like crazy back in the day.
I agree, and I'm really careful about the way that I talk about the medical industry, especially with my clients, because they're in it so much more than I am. And so I really want us to be friends and like work together as a team. And doctors are amazing at what they do. The problem is that we're going to them for something that isn't their job at all, right?
Hmm.
Like they're doing their best just like we are. And I think what we're experiencing right now is like there's so much blame of like, well, the medical system, they just want our money and like there's a lot of politics involved in that. And I'm just kind of like, listen, if I had gone to a really good medical professional when I was experiencing all my autoimmune issues, I probably would have had answers, like better answers to your questions. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, yes, they did just give me more pain medication, but also like that's all they knew how to do. Like what else were they supposed to do? Like I don't know.
And I think th- sorry to keep stepping on you here too, Bryce. I'm fired up over this and I want to go on it. I just want to hammer a little bit more on it. But
Keep going.
I think that's such a kind way to phrase it too, because like I completely respect that world and I think there's a massive contribution. But it's funny, I've never heard that saying before that you just said of we're going for something they don't know about or it isn't their world. And that's so true. And I'm going to take that away from today. That's a huge, huge takeaway for it. And like you said too, it's not like this alienation of that world. It's that I grew up with parents in the medical field and very much Western medicine, and that's how it was. And cool, like that's fine. And then my own explorations of this isn't working for me. I found some Eastern practices that were really told to me were not good growing up from Western background. And I find that I feel like I say this on every pod, but the middle way is the way, a little bit of this and a little bit of that. But I just think it's so cool to be like, it's not their fault. We're going to them for something that we shouldn't be going to them for. And that's a profound statement. And I just really wanted to comment on that.
Yeah. Yeah. To kind of, I guess, keep building upon that too, for yourself, like how did you start looking for your own answers? Because obviously, like you mentioned, you went to doctors, they didn't give you much to go off of, so just to give more context, how did you start peeling back the layers and figuring out what was going on? And let's say, like, for somebody who's maybe experiencing something similar.
Yeah. I love podcasts. I got really into Dr. Rhonda Patrick was one of
Mm-hmm.
my first people that I got into because she has a website where she just posts the research. I really appreciated that, and she had a lot of good stuff to say about things like vitamin D and omega-3 supplementation, which for me was just a very low barrier for entry, right? Like, I'm in pain all the time. I'm suicidal. I need a low barrier entry solutions. And supplementing with omega-3 and vitamin D for me was like, okay, this is something I can do that isn't like life altering. Because this is what we do. We're like, I'm gonna change my life today. I'm gonna do therapy. I'm gonna get to the bottom of this. Like, when you're people like us who are like super dedicated to self growth, it's like, I'm gonna do it all today. And that's very much the type of person I am. So I had to approach it with like a slow and steady mindset to counteract the sort of intense self sabotage mindset I had before. So that was the first thing I got into was podcasts, Dr. Rhonda Patrick, and then that led into a really strong passion for cell biology. So I read a lot of books. The two that stuck out the most were Molecules of Emotion by Candace Pert. She was a researcher who discovered the opiate receptor in our cells, which was huge. Like, that was really monumental back in the 90s. And another book that I really enjoyed is a more recent one. I think it was published in 2023 called The Song of the Cell, which, like, I think the human body is like the most insane work of art ever. I don't know. I don't care what your religious background is. I don't care what your spiritual beliefs are. Like, the human body is insane. So reading books about cell biology, as soon as you understand the way cells work, then you kind of understand the way humans work. Because cells are either growing or dying.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and humans are either growing or dying, right? Like, especially, when you're doing what you're really passionate about, if you're not doing that thing, it feels like you're dying. And I really resonated with that. And so I really liked kind of learning about cell biology in the context of like understanding myself better. And then I started to apply it to my business and seeing it also help my clients who are struggling with obviously a lot of the same things as I am has been really cool. So podcasts, books. Right now, I'm very much just focused on, being the change I want to see in the world, is kind of the first thing that comes to mind. But I am doing so many different things right now that I need to just apply and have that be the way that I learn. Because right now, when I take in the level of information I was taking in before, I tend to get overwhelmed and crash. So prior, it was a lot of like taking in information, but now I'm getting a lot of joy out of just applying that information.
Were there any aha moments along that as you started to kind of look more into that field and looking more in that research? What was the first thing that you saw that was like, oh my gosh, like that elicited that feeling, if that makes sense?
Yes. And I'll do the best I can to answer it like without going on crazy tangents because this is something I could talk about for a long time.
Go for it.
Um, awesome. So, molecules of emotion. A big aha moment that I had was just the connection between emotions and the rest of the body. And the reason why I say that is because I love the scientific community and I love the spiritual community. I think I'm equally in both, or at least I try to be. And I think when you understand the science of emotions, for me, that was a big aha moment because I always really relied on logic to kind of get me through difficult things.
Hmm.
And as soon as I understood more the science of emotions, I was kind of like, oh, like that's allowed. Like you can look at cell biology and you can look at like so when we feel an emotion at a really basic level, it's just a protein attaching to a cell. That's like the basics of emotions. And as soon as I had like a definition, it just kind of made it easier for me to allow myself to be human, if that makes sense. Um, so that was a big aha moment. Understanding the science of emotions was kind of the key for me to allow myself to feel the things I needed to feel. And then that led to a cascade of like my big spiritual awakening where I was like, oh, I'm the one doing all of this. Like I am the one creating my own suffering. Um, so science was a big doorway for me into spirituality. And now I think the journey is like, how can I do both equally? Like what you said of like, there's a balance to everything. I'm still kind of learning what that is, but I am doing my best to kind of be a living example of both.
It's I'm very speechless when I'm listening to these things because it's very very similar to how when I first discovered spirituality as a kid and then became a teenager and didn't care about things other than being cool and like skateboarding. It was like I forgot about everything, and it took disease, it took the same kind of suicidal thoughts and all those kind of things to really help me find it again. Um, Digging deeper into that, tell me more about what it was like to when that what was that connecting piece then? So understanding, the cell biology, understanding why we are the way they are, or why we perceive we are the way we are. What was that then brought it to you controlling everything spirituality? Because you know me, this is a massive thing I care about.
Yeah, I mean, I had to go through a lot of pain. You guys know this, like you have to go through pain and come out on the other side to understand that you're the one causing that pain. I remember like for me, I was listening to a Joe Dispenza podcast. And Joe Dispenza is like this he runs these massive meditation retreats for people where he gathers data about their health metrics. So if someone's coming to the retreat who has cancer, he'll hook them up to a bunch of stuff and he looks at them before and after. And he can actually show like, oh, this person's cancer tumor went away like after a 5-day
Mhm.
meditation retreat. So I was listening to a podcast where he was talking about how your thoughts create your reality. And I was just like, I don't know, I was in like a random field, like playing fetch with my dog or something. And I don't know, something just clicked where I was like, oh, like I had just broken up with a long-term boyfriend. And I was in this place in life where I was like, I wasn't sure which direction I wanted to go, but all I felt was like possibility. It's like, oh, there's so many different directions I could go. So when you pair that with like understanding that your thoughts create your reality and listening to this podcast, I'm like, oh, like I'm the one who was creating these relationships that weren't good for me. And like I'm the one who was causing my body to feel like a living hell for me. And like I'm the one that was doing all of this. And because I was on the other side of it, it was so much more empowering. I hope that answers your original question. But
Yeah,
that was like, I
absolutely.
just remember that moment of like being in that field, listening to that podcast. There's like, I don't know, we live in Alberta. The clouds are beautiful all the time. I was like looking up at the clouds and I was like, oh, like I did this.
Hmm.
So yeah.
It's the best feeling. I'll never forget when I found mine. My like coming to spirituality moment was on an airplane on one of the darkest days I'd experienced in a long time, and it was that aha, like I at the end of the day get to choose. And how many times have the three of us, said that to each other at some point in that back room at the old gym there? So I could talk about that literally all day, but it comes with a cost. It comes with the cost of knowing that we have a tendency to go negative and knowing how easy it is. And the society that we're around is almost like programming us to do that, in my opinion. All opinions loved as long as you're not hurting people here. Um, that has been a big challenge. And I knowing you have that power and it being a blessing and a curse. When did you start to see the shift, the change? How did that, what did that look like? Or is it ongoing? Was it small little incremental steps? Because we're a very like results based society. We want that quick fix now, but when we're talking about the health and like physiology, spirituality, I don't think there is any short term fixes. It's an endless pursuit.
Oh, what a good question. The last 2 years have been the hardest emotionally, um, probably in my life, which is great. So the way that things unfolded really was, I realize I'm the creator of my reality. Awesome. I um I quit my job at the box gym that I worked at, which was Mobody, which we all worked at one point. We have a lot of camaraderie there. I quit my job at Mobody, and it was just like that is when things got really difficult for me. I went through like another relationship ending. I went through, I had all these clients that were going to follow me to the vault, which is where we all work now together. And then I had a bunch of people back out at the last minute. I there were so many unknowns. Like I was working with a business partner at the time, who isn't a business partner anymore, and so that relationship ended up unraveling as well. And it was just like I came to this place where it was just me, right? Like I had all these plans for people to help me with my YouTube and my marketing and getting clients, and I had this whole plan, and I watched it all just fall apart in front of me. And I was like, "Oh, I guess this is just my opportunity to practice self-reliance." So, it wasn't easy, but I remember like I was living in this random house with this random roommate because it was all I could afford. I went to like roomies.ca and just
Oh
like
my
got
God.
this random roommate. Yeah, I was like
So
my
people
budget
do
for
that.
rent is this. Yeah, it's me. I
Wow.
do it. I'm the one. Because I just had this whatever it takes mindset. I was like, okay, I guess I'm just being tested. Like, I guess that's just what it is. And so I remember vividly, I'm like in this random house that I had lived in for a couple months with this random roommate, super great guy. We still talk a little bit. Um, and I was just kind of like, okay, like things aren't really working out for me right now, but like ultimately I'm in charge of what the story is. So I just got out like a pen and paper, and I remember writing out like just my story as if I was like a character in a book. And one of the things, this is super cheesy. You guys know I'm like all here for the cheese. I do cheesy stuff like this all the time. But I just wrote out like um my story from a third person perspective. Like, oh, Susie was, doing all the right things and like everything seemed to be falling apart, but then like things started turning around and things started getting better. And like I just wrote it out the way that I wanted it to be and just started believing that instead. And it's like even just telling it now, like it sounds like, oh, it's so simple. You just write out the story that you want to tell and start believing it. Um, but it wasn't super easy. I just remember it being a very like it's either this or like nothing. Like I need to believe this or like this is it. Um, and yeah, things did start working out. Like I hired a business coach and learned how to edit. I learned how to edit videos. I was like, I guess I'm gonna run my YouTube channel, so I guess I have to learn how to edit videos, and I have to learn how to run an Instagram, and um, I have to, learn how to use this training app. Like I just had to learn all of these skills in order to move in that direction. And yeah, it was really hard, but it was like it was the most visceral way that I could practice being the creator of my reality. So that's what I did.
So, a lot of people, when they're faced with adversity like that, I think the common thing is to just want to turn around and stop, or turn around just and stop in place. So, for yourself, what do you think allowed you to persevere and continue? We've used the analogy quite a few times of like, imagine like you're almost in the middle of an ocean on a raft, and there's a storm, and the raft is like, it's going like this, like this, like this, and you're just trying to hold on to this thing, and you're like, hey, well, can the storm stop now, please? But it's not looking like it's going to. So if you're on that raft, you're in the thick of it. How did you yourself like get that self belief turned, and how did you want to persevere? Because that can be challenging for a lot of people, and I'm sure the three of us have been there. I'm sure countless times, and I'm sure we'll all be there again too.
Yeah, I mean, going through all those health challenges, I think that I understood the importance of having support, and I'm really, really privileged in this area because I have my family support system and I have a really strong friend support system. So I think what got me through it was just knowing that like I'm still important to these people even if this doesn't work out. Like even if I don't achieve my business goals, like at the end of the day, this person and this person just love me for who I am and they don't care what I achieve in business. They just want me to be happy and like that I exist. So I think just
Mm-hmm.
having people who are that for you is really, really important. Um, and I grew up so privileged, you guys. Like I hate even saying that because I feel like that kind of makes it sound like, oh, it was just given to me. Like there were multiple opportunities for me to push those people out of my life, but ultimately I decided to like keep them because like I that's the life I want for myself. Like I want to be
Mm-hmm.
close with my family. Like I love them.
Mm-hmm.
And I could have seen our differences more than our similarities, you know? So like
Yeah.
yes, I was born into a two-parent household with incredible siblings and like incredible support, but I didn't I there were multiple points where I was like, these people aren't like me. I don't, like, you go through that rebellious phase. And yeah, I came out on the other side and I was like, no, like, I need these people. Like, I love them. So that was a big thing for me was having support. I've, I am a very lean into pain type of person. I've always been like that. My mom said, like, sometimes it seems like I almost purposely do painful things. And I don't want to be like that per se, but I've always been good at just being in pain and not really labeling it as anything. Like it's just like, oh, this is painful. This must just be like part of the human experience. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
just kind of detaching from like giving it too much attention. So I think that is just kind of a skill that I've honed over time. And then thirdly, I'm like pretty neurotic about habits. Um, like there are certain things that I have to do every single day if I want to maintain my mental well-being. And a lot of it is just really simple stuff, like wake up at the same time every day and get outside for at least an hour every day and do your breath work and listen to your channeled teachings, like whatever it is for you, like these things that I do every single day really help too. Hopefully that answered
Mm-hmm.
your question.
Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely, like that's exactly how I feel about the situation. On working on yourself, and like I want to go back to when you said leaning into pain. I have a really close friend who really he talked about his their mother, and how he was basically holding her hand during it. And he's told me, he's a client of mine. He's told me the story a million times. I was looking at him, I was watching him tell the story, and he probably told it to me 10 times because I try to get more out of it. And I've used his story on some of the darkest days I've faced. And when he looked at me, he's like, "Well, Rob, I could have sat there and I could have given up. I could have just, completely shattered under pain, and that would have been okay. That would have almost been expected, I feel, from most people. But he looked at me and he said, I want to feel I'm here in this human experience, and I want to feel all aspects of this. I'm not here for only the good times." And it just resonated and resonated. And humans are really, really interesting. That mid-level stress, that mid-level pain, it's like it really throws me. Like something like, oh, like, okay, I got in a car accident and I gotta do all this like paperwork and stuff to get everything to work out. That can really throw me off. But those high stress pain situations, we seem as humans to do our best work in that time. And I wonder, and I think maybe for me with a bit more, I've had some addictive tendencies in my past. I think, am I addicted to this struggle of like self-help, self-worth, and growing? And is that was good. You mentioned Joseph Dispenza, and have you read Becoming Supernatural?
I don't think I have.
Well, you're about to. I'll bring it for you. I highly recommend that. It's like everything we're talking about with case studies as well. And what your anybody's thoughts on of Dr. Joe Dispenza? That's cool. You can have whatever thoughts you want, but it helped me, and I like hope it helps you too. But there's really cool case studies. He does back it up with like quote unquote scientific stuff, and it's great. It's great work. With all of that information out there, knowing we can get better, knowing we control our reality. And again, this was a when I found this information, this changed the course of where I was heading in life. Someone listening to this right now, and we might sound wild to them, be like, "What do you mean we control our realities?" And it's like, well, your brain's kind of a projector to the real world, son. But on that note, what are three things you can say that are do this? Like for me, it's like vitamin D, man. Get outside, feel that on your skin. Water, like the difference between hydration and not. Three takeaways that someone can listen to this and be like, oh, I can start that today. For the average person that's like, oh, I don't want to go buy a book or do this kind of thing.
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind is sleep is so important. Um, I have a insane workload right now, and there's no way that I would be able to do the number of things that I'm doing if I did not get 7.5 to 8 hours of sleep every single night. So that's the first thing. I also notice on the nights where I don't sleep as much, I I tend to have more self-destructive thought processes. I don't know if you guys get that too, but sleep is just really, really important.
Oh yeah.
Exercise, I say this, with caution because I do exercise too much, probably, where I will not get enough recovery, but I'm figuring out what the balance of that is for me, but I have to exercise like high intensity, like we're talking like Tabata kettlebell swings, um, level of intensity. Exercise is really foundational for me. So sleep, exercise. You really need to have a spiritual perspective on life. And by that, I mean, like, you have to practice seeing the similarities between you and the people around you more than the dissimilarities. You have to. You cannot live your life just seeing yourself as different from everyone else. And I used to do this where I would think like, oh, my suicidal thoughts make me special and different, and like my business challenges make me special and different from everyone else, and it doesn't help at all. Those thoughts are destructive to yourself and the people that you care about. Like, people around you want to be there for you, and you have to give them the opportunity to do that. And I'm bad for this, where I will just take things on and take things on, and I need to be strong for the people around me, and like I need to be the one, I need to be the leader, I need to be the one that people rely on, and that doesn't help. You can't get there from there. So those are like the three big things, is like the sleep, the exercise, and then just like, I should have said this first, truthfully, like you have to have belief systems that serve you. And I had the belief system that like my problems are special and it wasn't serving me. Like everybody struggles
Mhm.
and everybody struggles with similar things. And we are all one in our struggles at the end of the day. And we're also all one in like our wins and our joy and our love for each other. And like love is the only thing that exists. You have to have that foundational belief, I think.
Yeah.
But I'd love to hear your guys' perspective on that too.
No, there was
Love
one
is the
piece
only
you
thing that
one
exists.
piece.
Sorry to cut you off, but
You're good. Yeah,
let's resonate on that sentence for 1 second. Love
yeah,
is
yeah.
the only thing that exists. Let it breathe. All right, Bryce.
I was just gonna say, like, obviously, you said a piece back there too, where, like, we tend to create our own suffering, right? But I think within creating our own suffering, we also create our own solitude. So I think within all this stuff, like, obviously, we can create our suffering via how much we tend to focus on things or how much we neglect things, and that's why I think a lot of the pieces you mentioned there are really important, like. Sleep quality, what we do before we sleep, right? Our stress management, are we choosing to exercise? And then are we choosing to reflect often too? And I think everybody tends to think that we have to have some super expensive, intricate morning routine or some super expensive, intricate nighttime routine to optimize our health. I'm air quoting for people listening too. But like a lot of this stuff is free. You can
Hmm.
go to sleep, doesn't cost you anything. You can go for a walk, it doesn't cost you anything. You can reflect, just get a journal. If you don't want to get a journal, just sit outside, think to yourself, think about stuff, right? None of this stuff costs money, but you're still able to work on yourself and you're able to focus on your growth, which I think is super important. And I think more people need to focus on that and not be like living this like NPC life where they're like just going through the day like very like autopilot, right? And then you ask them end of day, it's like, well, what did you do today? And there's like no recollection of actually like what happened. So it's just like
Hmm.
being more present, being more aware, and within that too, I think like taking more control of your life, and within that too, empowering yourself to actually be living a life that you want to live, which I think ties into what we just talked about.
Yeah, absolutely. And the NPC thing is funny too. And when I think back to my NPC phase,
Sims.
well, yeah, totally. What that looked like, you hear that a lot now too. And like what we're seeing, like, okay, these trends of everybody posting their morning routines. And you know what? Like at the end of the day, whether it frustrates you or not, it's cool that we all have a platform where we can express ourselves. I
Of
think that's
course.
the takeaway. But the sleep thing, I want to. Have either of you ever gone crazy sleep deprivation before?
Oh yeah.
It is wild. Bryce, what was your experience?
Oh man, like you get so you the best way to put it is like you would think you're tired, but you're
Yeah,
almost just not tired.
yeah.
And then you're riding this wave of like, I actually feel okay. And you're like going through your day, you're like doing your normal productivity stuff, and then all of a sudden it hits you.
Oh my
And
God,
it
does it
hits
hit?
you hard. You start like just seeing things differently. You're super reactive. You're just irritable. And
Yeah.
like I find for me, like I get like gut issues too, which makes sense now that I know more about it. But like the way that I digest food and everything, and obviously like the gut ties into your brain, right? So it's like, oh yeah, there's like a huge tie to it. But I think the most time that I was awake, I think was about 24 hours or longer. And yeah, would not
It
advise.
it's wild. I had 3 days that
Wasn't 3 days, but
were I had 3 days that were like sleep deprived. And again, anyone that's listened to the pod knows I talk about my past a lot. And it was I did things that put me in that situation, and my reality changed in the bad way of like you mentioned, like you start to see things different. I started to see things. And I'll never forget, there was, I think I've told both of you before, but there was a picture in the hotel room I was in. And it was that old photo of, I think at the end of World War II, there's like a soldier returning. It seems kind of contrived. And he's dipping his girl and like kissing her. It's famous Americana kind of photo. And I remember like, like tired, let's say, and looking at that photo, and they looked back at me like clear as day. And I was like, this is insane. And this is going back, like 10 years ago now, 10 years ago now. And like, there was like, I remember I was always interested in like, in these things. I just not as much as I am now. And we didn't really even know, like, other than recharging and stuff, what sleep was, what the purpose of that was back then. I remember thinking at that point, like, oh my God, like, this is not okay. On the other side of things, I've had a more natural sleep deprivation of taking, just a wild flight from the southern hemisphere to Asia, back to LA, and all these things. And I felt this heavy, crushing depression that I have never experienced. And I've had some dark days in this world, and this was something it felt oppressive, and that's the only way I can kind of describe it. So sleep. Just sleep out there, people. If there's anything you can do to help it, help support it, set up what like if there is one part of your life I think that you need to kind of like really make work for you, it is that sleep part, because it's you're hitting that reset button. And we could get into like the subconscious mind and what that's all about. Actually, you know what? Let's get into the subconscious mind. Susie, in your exploration for all this, have you located anything on the power of the subconscious mind?
Yes, absolutely. I feel like that's such a broad topic. I need like a
Yeah,
pointed
it is.
question.
Yeah. So let's say in the sense of, okay, the autoimmune issues are happening. You're diving into this new exciting world that we're speaking of now. Um, what did you learn in that, and what were some of the biggest takeaways of the power that you can actually do that? Because for me, sleep is very important, and it kind of ties it in when we get into that hypnagogic state just before sleep or just upon waking, where it sounds like the research is showing us there's a lot of malleability to the subconscious and programming and biohacking yourself in that state.
Yeah, so I got super into epigenetics and just understanding how DNA works and all that sort of thing. And I think coming out of that, my main takeaway was like, really the more you understand the human body, the more you understand the way the universe works. And that kind of helped me understand the whole subconscious, conscious type narratives that are out there. And I think it's one of those topics that like you can really get into it. And with the phase of life that I'm in right now, where it's like I just need to apply and stop taking in information, I think like the way that I see this play out is if I'm in line at a coffee shop, or if I'm at the grocery store, if I'm at like a Costco, I think that is one of the best ways that you could start to see how different people have different subconscious programming, right? Like I can look around and I can be like, wow, look at the diversity of the human race. This is so interesting. And then you literally right next to you is somebody like yelling at their husband because he got two of the same type of muffin instead of two different muffins. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it is the best sort of visceral example of like we are all living in completely different subconscious realities. So that's the way I think about it. That's like the most useful application I have for it because I do know a lot of the science of it, but I think just the fact that I haven't really retained any of it to be able to tell you mechanisms right now, but I can
Hmm.
tell you like, oh, this is what I see in my everyday. That's kind of how I function, if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And for anyone listening, I highly recommend the book, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind, I believe it's called. And I want to say Joseph Campbell, Dr. Joseph Campbell. I believe I
That
actually
sounds
have
right.
it
Yeah.
downstairs. Clearly, I haven't opened it yet. But that subconscious seems to be the gateway to a lot of long-term effects, and how we've ended up with whatever like idiosyncrasies or habits that we have now. Another good book that just came to mind is, I believe, called The Power of Habit. I can't remember who it's by.
Hmm.
Classic if you're in the gym, someone's read it or probably suggested it to you. um
Atomic Habits is another big
James
popular
Atomic
Clear.
one right
Habits,
now.
yeah.
James
And
Clear.
then psycho-cybernetics is one I hear a lot about too. But Atomic Habits, can we speak to that a little bit?
Oh man. So I am obsessed with systems. Specifically my business systems. And the reason why I say business is because that's just like how I help people. Like the best way for me to learn is to apply the things I learn in the people that I help. So I help people with huge weight loss goals. And people with huge weight loss goals are generally taking in a lot of information about the things that they should be doing with no real practical ideas of how to actually apply those things with where they are at in their life. And so I developed this. um, small, specific, stacked mindset. I got that from a course that I took from DTS, I think, the small, specific, stacked. But I don't use that specific terminology, but what I do is I like a bunch of little things when it comes to habits is running an online business. You know, for me, going from being an in-person personal trainer to online, the biggest thing that was front of mind for me was like, how can I have as many interactions as possible and make sure that they are as meaningful as possible with my clients that are in France and Germany and Australia and the United States. Like, how can I make sure that they still are feeling an impact? And so, and building some good habits, right? Like from Atomic Habits, you have to, has to be small, specific, and stacked. So the way that I figured out how to do that is any language that I use when we are on a call or I'm doing my weekly affirmation videos, which I call them instead of check-in videos for, well, that's a whole thing. Anytime I interact with my clients, I'm always and only giving attention to the habits that they are doing that are good. And I can get pretty out there with it, right? Like some of my clients are uh, obese and they are 400 pounds. And so they've been hearing for their entire lives that their weight is a problem, right? Nobody has ever once told them, like, hey, it's really good that you have a protein bar with your breakfast. Like, that's a really good behavior. And so Atomic Habits is a fantastic book. And I think one of the things that's in it is like the power of momentum. Because that's really all habits are. Like, the people that I help have very strong momentum in the direction of obesity. And the only way to get them out of that momentum is to give attention to the things that they're doing that are really good. And that means that, like, you know, as a coach, I need to be good at looking for those things and asking questions and all of that. And I've noticed that, like, the things that I give attention to, they keep doing those things and they do them more, right? And so that's really important to understand, like, for any coaches listening, is like what you give attention to is what they will keep doing. And for me, like, that is something that is really magnified in the populations that I work with because they are very sensitive to judgment, very sensitive to, like, they already think that they are a piece of garbage. So, like, if they get any inkling that I am joining them in that perspective, then, like, they will be gone. Like, I will never hear from them ever again. And that's so important for me if I want to be a good habit coach. Like, that's so important for me to work with people like that because the more sensitive they are, the better I am. Like, they bring that out of me. And so I think your original question was like about habits or like Atomic Habits or how that kind of plays out. What was your original question?
Honestly, I was just about the book, but I just say these things to spark exactly what you just said there and just see that passion for this come out. Because that to me is way more beneficial to anybody listening than getting into, like, you know, the minutia of the book because you've already lived it. You know, you've lived these things and continue to. But you said momentum. And I am the biggest believer in momentum. If you believe in Newtonian physics, objects in motion tend to stay in motion, right? Who knows what we'll be talking about in 100 years from now when it comes to physics. But the biggest thing with momentum too, and I wanted to touch on this, I know in my experience with it is, oh my gosh, when you first, it's like for people when they first start their fitness journey, it's so, well, you know what, I should only speak to mine of this, but it's exciting, or a new client has signed up, and it's like, oh my gosh, all these things, those first weeks are so good. And you're always going to hit those those trials, right? And that momentum hits a wall. And what I think is even more important than initial momentum is how we re-engage after a hard stop. Because I know the human mind, I know from my mind, when it's working against me, it'll say, oh, you tried it and it didn't work, man. Try something new. But it's no, it's not that. It's about, wait, I started this momentum and it got me here. Had I not started this momentum, I'd still be here. But now I'm here, almost like if we're looking at periodization, right? It's like, okay, I got to here, hit a wall. Now, how do I start momentum to go to here? And I think for anyone listening, like, momentum is key. And starting that momentum can be as simple as, today I'm going to brush my teeth. And I know that sounds silly, but I've been in a place where that seemed almost impossible as a human being to get started. And it's really incredible what it can lead to. And hearing the way you talk about all this, it's wonderful that they have you for this. And there are people like you out there that believe these things, have lived it, and are providing that. Because I believe that to be a very new thing in our industry. As coaches, we start to explore more than just exercise physiology and human anatomy. We look into deeper philosophies and apply them with our clients. And it's super cool to hear that.
I will also say, like, I fall in love like head over heels with all of my clients, which is like equally painful and joyful.
Hmm.
But like a huge passion that I have is like I want to understand what obese people live with. Like we don't know the reality that they live in because we spend all of our time judging them for being undisciplined. And like my clients are such beautiful people and they are obese. And the reality that they live in is like cooking for them is a huge task. Like they have such limited energy in a day. The thought of cooking an entire meal sometimes is extremely daunting. And that's not something that we are good yet at understanding is just the reality that an obese person lives in. Like
Yeah.
we're not getting anywhere. We're not helping anybody by, and I like people that are close to me will say this to me point blank. Like, I just think fat people are lazy. And it's like, that's okay. But like, you clearly have just never had a conversation with an obese person. You've never sought to understand them. And
Hmm.
that's so huge. And like, this keeps me up at night. I'm actually like kind of hesitant to admit it, but like, I have been having sleep problems for the last couple weeks because I'm just like so passionate about people understanding like they are doing their best. Like the people that I work with, they are tracking their calories, which is insane. Like they've I can't even like for an obese person to trust me enough to be like, you think tracking calories is a good idea? Okay, I'll track my calories. Like that is so huge. And that's because like they know that I love them and believe in them. You know what I mean? So it's like if we just did that,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I just think like that would solve the obesity epidemic. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
For sure.
begins and ends with love. What
Yeah.
it sounds like.
For sure. And
Yeah.
just like a piece to add to that too is like that's a big reason why I asked you to come on is because I know that you're very passionate about what you do. You care a lot, and I think a big takeaway within this that I really want to add to it too is for people to just judge less, right? We live in a space where we're so quick to judge everything without like any context. We don't know this person at all. We don't know where they came from. Yet we're just judging based solely off of looks, right? We see somebody in a certain situation, but we don't know how they got there. We don't know their story. It could be hormonal issues. Someone could have died really close to them. We don't know what they got through to get to where they are. So I think within like, what Rob and I are trying to do here too is create a platform where people can talk about this stuff. But I think at the same time too, like on your social media, just choose to not judge people because you have no clue where they came from. And they could be putting themselves out there. They could be super self-conscious. They could be putting photos or videos of themselves up because they want to track their own journey, but they're going to be way less inclined to if you're making jabs at them in the comment section or if you're sharing stuff around and you're making fun of people. So just choose to just not judge and just acknowledge somebody's strides. I think that's the most important part of this too.
Yeah, you can do an experiment and it can bring a pretty harsh truth to you if you're in a place in a paradigm where you can handle this, where you make a little note of how many times you make a judgment comment in your head, whether it's like, I catch myself all the time, and I'm the first person to scream "spread love" from the rooftops. And I wasn't always like this, but it's what I believe in more than anything in this entire world.
So
But
I
I'll
I love
still
love
you,
it.
catch
Rob.
myself. Yeah, heck yeah, good. We're everywhere. I'll still catch myself walking around the neighborhood, and I'm not even joking. Like 2 days ago, I looked at my neighbor's bird feeder, and I didn't like it. And I'm like, dude, who cares? Everything about a bird feeder is awesome. You know what I mean? Like you're helping an animal. You created something. It doesn't matter. It's all good. But you can really take like even just in 10 minutes, if you're going to be consuming any kind of media or just walking around the world, like the brain wants to do that. And when you
Mhm.
can get a couple steps forward in that not happening and that positivity mindset, and I know that's so like we all talk positive mental attitude, yeah, but it's so key. It is so key, and the judgment and like we've all been in this industry a long time, and we know a lot more now about obesity than there's a lot more factors going into what health is and what that looks like. And I know we're all compassionate people here with that. But the judgmental thing, that is something that just one of my favorite quotes is when I'm gonna mess it up and paraphrase a little bit here, but it's with that judgment or the lower vibration stuff like jealousy, resentment, like you're literally drinking poison and expecting your enemy to die. And it's just that step one is like, yeah, we talk about sleep and that, but it's developing that filter for which you see things. And it is really tough to get a rose colored filter on the world when you're coming from a place of, suicidal thoughts. And I'm right there with you. I've been there too. And that's where I would argue momentum and that finding that self love and having some kind of spiritual understanding and whatever you could believe in worshiping. I was going to say Mr. Potato Head, but I believe they are just Potato Head now. And that's cool, man. If that works for you, hell yeah, let's go.
To add to that too, like the more I seek to understand people with obesity, the more it's like, oh, like they are completely disconnected from themselves. And like
Mhm.
that's so foundational. So by me encouraging them and uplifting them, that nurtures their own like sense of belonging to themselves. And like that's step one, right? Like you have to belong to yourself before you can feel like you're a part of something bigger. So that's something I see as a huge responsibility to anybody in the fitness industry. And also there is a lot of there's a lot of talk about GLP-1 agonists right now in the fitness industry and how, they lower your bone density and there's all these other side effects and it's not a long-term fix. And like, I just think that's such a missed opportunity because if you talk to any medical professional about GLP-1 agonists, they always say that they are best taken alongside a healthy lifestyle, right? And it's like, that's us. Like, we are the teachers and the livers of a healthy lifestyle. So, like, whenever anybody in the fitness industry kind of like criticizes or judges GLP-1 agonists, I kind of just see that as a huge missed opportunity. And I was one of them. Like, I have a whole YouTube video on how diet is better than Ozempic. Like, and it has like 250,000 views. And it's like, that haunts me at night too. Cause I'm like, that whole like narrative of that video is change your diet instead of taking a GLP-1 agonist, and that obviously wasn't the intention of the video. But that was some people's like takeaway from that,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a lot of like guilt and regret about that, because I think what I think now is that it is a big opportunity, like for an obese person in their reality to have like a quick solution as a doorway into creating healthy habits, I think is so important. I don't know how I got onto that, but I did.
No,
So
that's
here we
good.
are.
No, that's
Yeah.
great. That's great. Can you give me three book recommendations to anybody listening that you just highly recommend that tie into our subjects here?
For self-development or
Let's
health
say
or
anybody listening that's coming to this pod in my mind is a big Susie fan, or they're like, oh, pursuing horizons, some kind of self growth. So we can tie it into exactly what we talked about today. We can tie it into self growth, or just three books that you really believe in. To a fitness professional listening to this, someone in the middle of their fitness journey, or someone that's just having a bad day looking for some positivity.
cool. How to Solve All Your Money Problems Forever by
What a
Victor
title!
Bach is a great one. And like related to money, it's helpful, but also just, if you can improve your relationship with money, I think then you gain the skill of improving your relationship with like other aspects of your reality as well. That's a big one. I loved the Song of the Cell as more of a sort of a scientific antidote. So we've got one sort of spiritual book, one scientific book. I am a huge Wayne Dyer fan. Huge. Wayne Dyer was like very pivotal to my spiritual journey. So his book, The Power of Intention, was one of the first like spiritual books that I read that really impacted me. So I think those would be my top three.
That's a well-rounded three.
So,
That's a well-rounded three.
one thing to wrap this up. If you were to speak to a younger Susie, or let's say someone else who's in a very similar situation and they feel like all hope is lost, what would you recommend that they do? Or what was like one word of encouragement that you'd give them?
Man, I spent so many years hating myself. And as soon as I stopped hating myself, I actually was able to help people. So I guess what I would say to my younger self is like, you have to love yourself. You have to. There's just no other way to exist. Um, yeah,
Amazing.
yeah.
That's the
Susie,
sound
admire
clip right
you
there.
and what you do. Admire you and what you do deeply. Where can people follow you on your socials and see what you're doing?
I am on YouTube. I am Coach Suze on YouTube and Instagram. I am doing monthly webinars. You can get the information for that on my YouTube. And that's me.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed, and remember to follow her on her socials.